Namaskar. Today we are going to talk about raw silk testing. Like any other industry, in the silk industry too, raw silk testing provides information on the quality of the raw silk produced and therefore assumes great importance. The sole objective of raw silk testing is to assess the quality of the raw silk, which in turn is useful in establishing a standard for fair and equitable transactions of the raw silk. A proper assessment of the quality of silk not only assists the raw silk producer in decision making with respect to improving the quality by suitably changing the related factors in processing and selection of raw materials, but also provides suitable information and to the consumer to select the raw silk required for the product to be manufactured by him. The testing procedure or the methods are formulated based on the utility of these results in making a fair assessment of the quality of the product as perceived by both the producer and consumer of the product. Keeping this in view, suitable testing methods and procedures are drawn for raw silk. Since raw silk production processes and the requirement of the consumer are quite different when compared to the other textile yarns, the testing methods of the raw silk vary to some extent. Unit of testing. One lot of raw silk is a unit of testing. 10 bales or 20 cases or less make up one lot. The standard weight of one bale of raw silk is 60 kgs, which correspond to about 132 pounds. Size under test, which is also called as denier. The size indicated by the reeler at the time of submitting the lot for testing is taken as size under test. The size is considered for further quality tests and classification of yarn. However, if the condition average size test is not within 5% of the indicated size, the size under test has to be corrected by replacing it with average size test. For this purpose, the average size test is repeated and the results obtained by the second test are used for grading of the raw silk. The raw silk test for grading. Raw silk test can be broadly classified as quality tests for classification and condition weight tests. The quality tests include general finish inspection or visual test, sample skein test, which includes winding test, size deviation test, maximum deviation test, average size test, evenness variation test, cleanness and neatness test, tenacity and elongation test, and cohesion test. Coming to visual test, the silk cloth is first subject to a visual test. The main objective of visual test is to inspect the skeins for uniformity and general finish of the lot of raw silk. The inspection made on the books and skeins of the whole lot. The inspection is carried out in a room temperature of 25 degrees centigrade and 60% humidity. An artificial lighting equipment is provided to ensure fall of 500 to 600 lux light on the black surface of the tables. 14 tube lights, each of 40 watts, are fitted in order to ensure that the light emitted by the equipment is nearer to the spectral energy distributed of the natural daylight. Inspection is carried out for the following characteristics. They include uniformity, nature and finish. Coming to uniformity, the inspection is made for uniformity in color, luster and hank of the lot. General finish. In general finish, the following defects are inspected. Number 1, re-reeling defects. These include hard gum spots, gum skeins, irregular traverse and double ends. Number 2 includes finish. Improper scale lacing. drop threads, pull threads and disturbed traverse. Number 3, it includes makeup. Irregular skeins are books, dissimilar threads, improperly twisted skeins or making of the books, raised threads, cut and dissimilar skeins, gum spots, etc. Number 4, damage that is caused by friction, injured skeins, insect-eaten threads, discolored skeins and soil threads. Coming to the nature of the lot, shade and degree of color, kind and degree of lustre and hardness or smoothness of the hanks are inspected. Recording of the results. The uniformity is indicated by as excellent, good, fair, slightly inferior or inferior. The general finish is recorded as excellent, good, fair, slightly inferior and inferior. The nature of the skin is indicated as light, medium or deep for color, bright, medium or dull for lustre and smooth, medium or rough for hank. If the skins observed to be inferior, the defects responsible for the results are recorded in the certificate. Next point, sample preparation for the selection. Before proceeding to sample skin test, the important step is to draw samples for the test. 25 skins are drawn from the lot, which consists of skins not less than 120 grams in each skins on the average. If the average weight of the skin is less than 120, 50 original skins are drawn from the lot. The samples have to be drawn in such a way that they are uniform at every part of the lot, books and skins. To achieve these objectives, the following procedure is adopted. 25 or 50 skins are drawn from different books taken at random from various parts of the lot, not more than one skin from each book. Number 2, these skins are drawn in such a way that they are picked from the corner, the exterior side leaving the corners and the inner part of each book in proportion to the number of the skins actually found in these respective parts of the books. 8 skins from inside, 5 from the corner and 12 from the outside excluding the corners. Now let's go for the winding test. The object of this test is to determine the number of breaks that occur while winding the raw silk during the specified period. The test indicates the feasibility of the skins for winding process. The winding frame is an apparatus used for winding and has the following features. Number 1, adjustable winding speeds 110, 140 and 165 meters per minute. Number 2, the friction wheels on which both ends of each the double flange bobbin are made to turn should run smoothly with uniform rate of rotation. Number 3, the swift used in the test should have 6 automatic self-centering pins attached to the arms that radiate from the hubs. The swift should be about 530 grams. Number 5, in order to maintain uniform tension during the winding and to maintain uniform speed, the bobbins used for the test should be smooth and well balanced with the following dimensions. The diameter of the head should be 60 millimeters and the barrel should be 38 millimeters and the length between the ends should be 85 millimeters and the weight of the bobbin should be 105 grams. For 70 gram skin, samples of 40 out of 50 skins are considered for winding test. 20 skins are wound from the outer surface and 20 skins from the inner surface. In case of 140 gram skin, 20 skins are considered for the test. The skins are wound from outer surface and 10 from the inner surface. The remaining 5 or 10 bobbins are also wound but not considered for the winding test. In case of 70 gram skin, 5 skins out of 10 are wound from 1/4 portion from the outer surface and 5 from the 1/4 portion from the inner surface of the skins. For 140 gram skins, the 5 skins are wound from 1/4 part from the outer part of the skin. Now the testing procedure. During the test, temperature and humidity should be close to the standard conditions prescribed. The temperature should be 20 degrees and humidity 65%. The speed of the winding machine and the duration of the test are fixed based on the denier. The following tables gives the speeds for the various denier ranges and winding time. It may be noted from the table that the preliminary winding time of 5 to 10 minutes is permitted for the skins wound from the inner surface. During winding, the inconvenience caused during the following reasons are recorded. Number 1. Inconvenience in spreading skin over swift, recorded as hard or slight. If a strip of yarn is to be removed to overcome the problem, then it is taken as hard. Otherwise, it is recorded as slight. Number 2. Inconvenience in finding the right end to continue the windings, recorded as hard or slight. Number 3. Continued breaking of thread due to gum spots to overcome the problem, stripping by a small portion of the layer of the thread is necessary. Number 4. Removal of doublets with more than 3 meters in length. Number 5. Continued breaking of thread due to defects other than gum spots and to overcome the problem of stripping of small portion of the layer of the thread is necessary. Number 6. Removal of involved waste and double ends less than 3 meters. Recording of the results. The winding test results are recorded in 2 parts: breaks and skin finish inspection. Breaks. The record will show the total number of breaks for 20 or 40 skins and a table of frequency distribution of skins for each number of breaks. Skin finish inspection. The total penalty for various inconveniences caused during winding is calculated from the penalty as shown in the following table. Based on this, it is reported as good, fair or poor. If the result is poor, it has to be mentioned along with the degree and frequency of inconvenience in the test certificate. Now let's go for the second test. This is called the size deviation test. The objective of this test is to determine the degree of the size variation within the test pieces of the sizing skins of definite length of raw silk. Sizing reel and balances require sensitivity are the apparatus needed for the test. The sizing reel should have 1.125 meters circumference. The machine has to run at a uniform velocity of 300 meters and it should have a dial to show the number of revolutions. The machine should also be provided with an automatic stop motion and to stop the machine immediately in case of the breakage of the yarn or completion of the skin. A 50 grams plus or minus 5 mg capacity balance is required for weighing the total weight of the skins. The capacity and sensitivity of the balance required for testing individual test skins are as follows. Sample. For raw silk of 33 denier and finer, 4 sizing skins, which are called as kill jars, of 450 meters length are made from each of the 50 sample skins. The total length wound considering all the sizing skills will be 90,000 meters. For 34 denier and coarser, 8 sizing skins of 112 meters length are made from each of the 50 sample skins and total length wound in this case would be 45,000 meters. Now testing. The sizing skins are divided into 40 groups. Each individual sizing skin of each group is weighed separately and all the skins of each group are weighed together. The following table gives the number of sizing skins in a group. the gradation of the scale for weighing individual skeins, and the group of skeins. Denier differences is the differences between the sum weights of the individual skeins in the group and the total weight of all the skeins of the group. If this difference is more than the value given in the above table, the mean of individual skeins and the group of skeins are repeated. Recording of the results. Frequency distribution table of a number of individual skeins for each respective denier size is made. Standard deviation of the size is calculated by considering the following variables. Size deviation is determined by using a calculated and average size method. The average size from the frequency table is calculated by the following attributes based on the number of sizing skeins, class interval, frequency, and arbitrary size chosen close to the center of the frequency distribution, deviation from the arbitrary size A with the appropriate sign for each weighing interval. Standard deviation of size is calculated by considering the following attributes: total number of sizing skeins, calculated average size in denier, size of the sizing skeins in denier, frequency of the respective denier. The results of standard deviation are given down to 2 decimal places. Maximum deviation. The object of this test is to determine the degree of spring size in 450 or 112.5 meters sizing skeins. Apparatus, sample and test procedures are same as size deviation test. Recording of the results. Maximum deviation is calculated as follows: average of 4 coarsest sizes, then which is called as XC, average size that is called as M, average of 4 finer pieces that is called XF. If XC minus M is greater than M minus XF, then XC minus M is the maximum deviation. If F minus XF is greater than the XC minus M, then M minus Fx is the maximum deviation. Maximum deviation is calculated down to 1 decimal place. Now the average size. The objective of this test is to determine the average size at a conditioned weight. Conditioning oven is required to carry out this test. Conditioning oven should have forced ventilation, positive valve control, capable of weighing the sample, skeins at 140 degrees, a balance mounted on the oven as to weigh the skeins with accuracy with 1 centigram while the samples are suspended within the drying chamber, and the skein holder allows free access of dry air to all the skeins. Method of drying samples is same as explained for size deviation test. 200 skeins are placed in the sample holder for conditioning oven and dried to the constant weight. The first weight is taken after 10 minutes of drying. Second weight is recorded after lapse of further 5 minutes. If the difference between the second weight and the first weight is less than 1/4% of the total first drying weight, the second weight is considered as dry weight. Otherwise, recording of the weight is continued for every 5 minutes till the difference between the successive weight is less than 1/4% of the previous weight. Recording of the results. The average size is indicating by conditioned average size of the total skeins in the denier. The average size is calculated down 2 places after decimal point. Evenness variation test. The objective of this test is to determine the degree and frequency of size variation occurring in raw silk threads within approximately the same length as the sizing skein, which is called as Sericulture. Even variation is defined as the defective portion of the raw silk threads on the inspection board, which appears as strips caused by variation in the size of the raw silk. The degree of such variation is called as intensity of variation. The intensity of variation is compared with the standard board consisting of standard variation photographs, namely V0, V1, V2, based on the following standards are established for evenness variation. Evenness variation 1. The intensity of variation greater than the V0 does not exceed the V1 panel of the standard variation photograph. Evenness variation 2. The intensity of variation is greater than V1 panel but not exceed the V2 panel of the standard variation photograph. Evenness variation 3. The intensity of variation is greater than V2 panel of the standard variation photograph. A panel is defined as a section of raw silk of 127 mm width and 457 mm length uniformly wound from a bobbin onto the inspection board. Seriplane is equipment used to prepare panels on the inspection board. Seriplane is designed to revolve the inspection board at uniform speed so that the raw silk can be wound on it to form a panel with uniform spacing. The machine has to be provided with a tension device to wind the yarn at uniform tension. The inspection board should be uniformly flat, having a black surface without streaks, bars or other imperfections. The following figure shows the standard Seriplane inspection room. It can be seen that the room is illuminated bank of incandescent lamps in a reflector placed vertically on each side of the Seriplane rack. The Seriplane board is viewed and compared with the standard photographs from a distance of 2.12 meters. The 50-meter bobbin are wound by the Seriplane machine to keep 100 panels at the rate of 2 panels per bobbin. These 100 panels, which make the samples, are used for the test. Thread spacing in the Seriplane winding. For 9 denier and finer, 133 the threads per 25.4 mm. 10 to 12 denier, it is 114 threads. 13 to 16 denier, it is 100 threads. 17 to 26 denier, 80 threads. 27 to 36 denier, 66 threads. 37 to 48 denier, it is 57 threads. 49 to 68 denier, it is 50 threads. 69 to 104 denier, 40 threads. 105 to 149 denier, 33 threads. 150 to 197 denier, 28. 198 denier and coarser, it is 25 threads per 25.4 mm. Thus the inspection boards are prepared and taken to the Seriplane inspection room and viewed from a distance of approximately 2 meters after placing each board in its position. Each panel is compared with the standard photograph and the number of strips or intensity of variations are recorded for evenness variations 1, 2 and 3. Recording of the results. The record has to show the total stripes or intensity of variation observed for 100 panels for evenness variation 1, 2 and 3. Coming to the next test, that is cleanness and neatness test. Let's talk about cleanness test first. The object of this test is to determine the kind and number of cleanness defects of the raw silk. The cleanness defects are divided into 3 groups, namely supermajor defects, major defects and minor defects. Supermajor defects are those defects in the raw silk on which 10 or more times as large as the minimum size of the major defects in length or size. Major defects are further divided into 5 kinds. They are waste, large slugs, bad casts, very wrong knots and heavy corkscrews. Let's talk about waste. It is a mass of tangled cocoon filament or fibers attached to the thread. Large slugs, these are considered thickened places in the threads having more than 7 mm or more in length or extremely thickened places in less length. Bad casts, These are abruptly thickened places in the thread due to the cocoon filament not properly attached to the thread, and this is made by adding one cocoon filament at a time. Coming to very long knots, these are the errors of cleanness defects of having very long knots with loose ends more than 10 mm in length caused by improper knotting. And finally, the heavy corkscrews. These are the defects or the places in the thread where one or more cocoon filaments are larger than the remainder and gives the appearance of spiral form. Minor defects are divided into 4 kinds. They are small slugs, long knots, corkscrews, and long loops or split ends. Coming to small slugs, these are considerably thickened places in the thread having a length of 2 mm or less than 7 mm, or an extremely thickened places with less than 2 mm in length. Long knots are the knots having loose ends of 3 mm to less than 10 mm in length. Corkscrews, these are the places in the thread where one or more cocoon filaments are longer than the remaining ones and give the appearance of a spiral form. Long loops or split ends, these are the cleanness defects having loops or split ends having length of 10 mm or more in length when measured along the filament. The panels prepared for evenness tests are used for cleanness tests. The standard photographs for cleanness defects prepared by the silk conditioning houses of Yokohama and Kobe are used. The various cleanness defects are recorded for the class and kind explained above for all the panels by viewing the inspection board at a distance of 2 feet, that's 0.5 meters. Recording of the results. Each class or group of defects is penalized in the following rate. For each supermajor defect, it is 1%. Each major defect, it is 0.4%. And each of minor defect is 0.1%. The total penalty for the defects in the 100 panels is calculated by the above rate. The total penalty is deducted from the 100 to get the cleanness percentage. The record will show the number of defects and the cleanness percentage. Now, coming to the next test, that's called the neatness test. The objective of this test is to determine the neatness percentage of the raw silk. Neatness defects are those defects in the raw silk thread which are smaller than those classified as minor defects in the cleanness test. The following are the imperfections considered under the neatness test. They are nips, loops, hairiness or fuzziness, raw knots, fine corkscrews, and so on. Now coming to the nips. These are small thickened places or spot which are less than 2 mm in length. Loops, these are the small open places on the thread due to one or more filaments being longer than the other and less than 10 mm in length. Hairiness and fuzziness is a condition of threads where small loose ends of less than 10 mm protruding from the thread. Small particle of cocoons projecting from the thread are also considered. Raw knots, knots which have loose ends of less than 3 mm in length. Then fine corkscrews, as small corkscrews appearing in the yarn are known as fine corkscrews. The standard photographs for neatness defects are prepared by the silk conditioning house of Yokohama and Kobe are used for this test. The 100 panels prepared for measuring cleanness tests are used in this test too. The inspection panels are observed from a distance of 0.5 meters of 2 feet in distance, and each panel is compared with the standard photograph for neatness defects and its neatness values estimated in the percentage. From 100% to 50%, the estimate has to be nearest 5%. Below 50, the estimate should be nearest 10%. Recording of the results. Neatness percentage for each panel has to be indicated along the average neatness percentage of total of 100 panels. Further, low neatness percentage should also be indicated. Low neatness percentage is represented by an average percent of 20 low panels examined. Let's go for another important test called the tenacity and elongation of the silk. In this test, the object of this test is to determine tenacity and elongation of the raw silk. Tenacity in this test is expressed as grams per denier, whereas elongation is the amount of stretch when the yarn is pulled to its breaking point. The apparatus used for this test is called as serigraph. The serigraph machine is a tensile testing machine with an automatic attachment recording simultaneously the tensile force and corresponding elongation. Specimen gauge length used is 10 cm and traverse speed of 15 cm is used on serigraph machine. 10 sample skeins are taken out from the 50 sample skein drawn from the lot. Each of these 10 sample skeins, a sizing skein is prepared. The 10 sizing skeins thus prepared make a sample for this test. These sizing skeins are kept in the standard atmospheric condition, that is 65% humidity and 27% temperature, before being taken for testing. Standard conditions have to be maintained where the serigraph and the balance for testing of the size are kept. Each sizing skein is first tested for size and then tested for the serigraph machine. Recording of the results. Tenacity is calculated as grams per denier and the elongation as elongation percentage. In both the cases, average of 10 values is indicated. Let's go for another important test called the cohesion test. The raw silk yarn is formed by the filaments from given unit number of cocoons. These filaments agglutinate to form a compact yarn. The objective of this test is to determine the degree of agglutination of cocoon filament forming the thread. Cohesion is tested on an instrument called Duplan cohesion tester, where the yarn is subjected to abrasion by a moving blade. Continuous raw silk thread is placed in a zigzag manner between the set of 10 hooks on each side of this frame at a uniform tension of 180 grams. The thread is subjected to a friction at 20 places simultaneously. 20 test pieces taken from 20 skeins out of 50 skeins drawn from the lot form the sample of the test. The sample should be free from the cleanness defects and pronounced evenness variation. The test is formed where the standard conditions are maintained. The instrument is operated at a speed of 140 strokes per minute. The instrument is stopped for every 10 strokes and the threads are inspected for separation of filaments. Once 10 different open places of 6 mm length or above are observed, they are recorded along with the number of the strokes. Recording of the results. The report has to indicate the average number of strokes for 20 test pieces.